Carmen Aguirre was raised in a passionate Chilean socialist family. From the time she could crawl, she was taught to fight for her beliefs and be a critical thinker. At 18, she joined the Chilean resistance movement, which was not a choice, but a bit of a given. Her life of ecstasy, sorrow, danger, activism, and adventure is in her first memoir called Something Fierce. It is my pleasure to welcome actor-playwright Carmen Aguirre to Studio 4 to tell us more. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
What a life so far you've led.
Yes, I can't complain.
Take me back to your early years in Chile, what you remember, because you were quite young.
When the coup happened?
Before
the coup happened. Oh, well, we lived in Patagonia on the, obviously on the Chilean side of Patagonia. Patagonia is also on the Argentinian side,
right.
In a small city called Valdivia, which the claim to fame of Valdivia is that it had the biggest earthquake ever in history.
Oh, fine. Did you go through that, or was that before?
No, but
Good.
No, but my mother went through that. It was in 1960, and apparently two mountains went like this. That's basically the earthquake, right?
And Mother lived to tell the story.
Yes, she lived to tell the story. So yeah, my memories, I was very small, just of a house of a lot of friends coming over to the house. My parents were very social people. They were very young. They were in their 20s. They were university teachers. They were taking part in the literacy campaign. This is all during Allende's socialist government, which was a time of great joy for certainly the working class in Chile.
Right.
And my parents were very strong supporters of his and of his program.
That makes sense. He was democratically elected. He was a socialist, and he was removed from office in a not so nice way.
That's right, yes. Not very nice at all.
So when did your family know, or did you know you had to leave Chile? The minute Pinochet came to power, or how did that work?
Yes, my parents knew that life was pretty much over for us on the day of the coup. They really are survivors of their group of friends. Most of their friends were arrested after the coup. Some of them disappeared, some of them died, or not died, were murdered. So my parents knew that we had to leave as soon as possible, and we did about 2 or 3 months after the coup.
Who got you out? How did you get out?
Wow, that's a long story.
Is it? Okay, you don't have to tell it all. You got out safely, and there was some maneuvering. But as you point out in Something Fierce, you know, sometimes the enemy can be in the heart of your family. Just because you have aunties who love you doesn't mean they're on your side.
Yes, this is true. So you want me to talk about those aunts?
We're going to get to the aunts, I'll tell you, because you did go back to visit those aunts. So now, Canada, the culture shock, firstly, or was there? Culture shock.
Of course.
You were 6.
Yes, the culture shock, I mean, obviously now I don't feel that way, but in terms of the shock of arriving somewhere like Canada after having known only Chile, no people on the street, people seem very reserved, everything seems plastic and watered down, apathetic, sedate, boring.
Well, I think you said in the book, or somebody said that in Chile you walk down the street and you run into somebody and it's like an open window. It's heart to heart. And in Canada, I had this experience too. I came from the States where everybody's a little noisier, you know, and the Canadians were more reserved.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if that's still true because I haven't done that for a while, come to this country, but certainly Americans are a bit louder.
Oh, yes. I love Americans.
Well, we're noisy, as you know, and forthcoming. I'm now a dual citizen, as are you.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you're a political refugee. Where did you live?
In Vancouver?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we lived in many different places. East Vancouver, basement suites. And when we first arrived, we were put up at what we called the Refugee Hotel, which at that time, it might still be the same place, was the English Bay Apartment Hotel, which is where refugees would be put up until they were placed in jobs and then homes. Yes.
And what part did your parents play at that point in resistance or solidarity, activism, political activism?
They were founders of the Solidarity movement with Chile here in Vancouver, because we were one of the first families to arrive in Vancouver, and my mother was the only person in the Chilean community who already spoke English. She had studied English in Chile. They were pretty much the founders of the Solidarity movement here in Vancouver.
And what did you think was going on when you were younger?
You mean in terms of the Solidarity movement?
Solidarity movement and different people coming to your home. You weren't sure who they were exactly, but they lived with you for a few days and maybe not. And there was a lot of talk, I'm sure, and smoking around the table.
Yeah, a lot of drinking, a lot of dancing.
Dancing.
I thought it was fun.
Fun and passion.
Oh yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. I mean, that might sound a bit strange, because the vast majority of the people arriving in our house were coming from concentration camps and had just been tortured and had been, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, saved from the firing squad and brought to Canada. Literally, like taken from a firing squad, put on a plane and sent to Canada. This was a treaty that Trudeau did with Pinochet. So that's why many of the first refugees to arrive in Canada were people taken from firing squads, because Trudeau said to Pinochet, who are you going to kill in the next 24 hours? Send them my way.
We'll take them in.
Yes, yes.
My friend Sergio Contreras, who has worked at Shaw for many years, had that experience and escaped Pinochet. And
yes.
And on it goes. His stories are astounding.
Yes.
Really. So feeling lucky coming out. And some of the concentration camps were in soccer fields. It's not like behind barbed wire necessarily.
No, because they ran out of space, right? So they had a whole bunch of concentration camps, didn't know where else to put the political prisoners, so they started to use the soccer stadiums and the basketball stadiums as concentration camps.
And when did your mother and your stepfather, Bob, decide to go back to Chile?
Yes, and as an aside, Bob was one of 3 Canadians who was in jail in Chile after the coup at the National Stadium as a political prisoner.
And he met your mother
here.
Here.
He was instrumental in having Chilean refugees arrive in Canada, because he organized a cross-Canada caravan to Parliament Hill and basically refused to move from Parliament Hill until Trudeau did what I just explained.
Exactly. Yeah. So Bob, pivotal to the movement.
Yes, and he came to the refugee hotel, which is what we called it, and introduced himself. So he was the first Canadian.
I see. And love bloomed.
Yes.
And the parents?
Yes. So my parents split up, which was very common for exiles at that time, you know, just the stress of exile. And my mother and Bob got together. And then in 1978, the Chilean resistance, which had been completely destroyed by Pinochet, made an international call and said, anybody out there who wishes to come back and join the underground and resist Pinochet, please do so.
And some, many did, actually.
Yes, many.
Your father chose, your biological father chose not to, so you had to leave him. And often I know some of the children went other places, to Cuba or places where families would take them in. Your mother took you with her.
Yes.
And your sister.
Yes. When I was 11 and my sister was 10. So my mother and Bob heeded the return. It's called the return plan. Heeded the return plan and did go back. And the South American headquarters for the Chilean resistance outside of Chile was Lima, Peru. So you would go to Lima, and then in Lima, the resistance would tell you what you had to do. And basically, they told my mother and Bob that they had to set up a safe house in La Paz, Bolivia, for resistance members going in and out of Chile, and also to cross people and other things into Chile, illegally, of course, through the Atacama Desert.
And when you say set up safe house and look like normal people.
Yes.
High heels and white pants.
Yes.
Do not look like a resistance worker or whatever.
Or a hippie or any kind of alternative
person. Look like you belong.
Yes.
What were the rules for you as a young girl and for your sister, Ale?
Ale, yeah.
Ale, what were the rules when you're in resistance and you know the parents are up to something?
Yes.
What was your life like?
Well, basically, we had to learn a whole new life story, which was completely not true, of course, and rehearse it and just tell a pack of lies all the time. And security was pretty high. That is to say, one example, if my mother and Bob did not return in a 24-hour period, we had very clear instructions as to what to do after 24 hours, which was, I was given a piece of paper that was seemingly blank, and at the 24-hour mark, which thank God never happened, I would have to put a flame underneath the piece of paper, and a number would appear. I would memorize the number, burn the piece of paper, flush it down the toilet, go to a phone this number, say who I was with, which was 2 fake names, and then within the hour, somebody would come and take my sister and I somewhere else.
Yes, so highly organized yet unorganized.
Yes.
Organic, if you will. And I'm sure as a young girl, you hoped that if you ever had to do that and call the number, somebody would answer.
Yes.
Because now you flush the number down the toilet.
Yes.
When we come back, we'll talk more about Something Fierce. This is a movie.
Well,
Your
I
life
hope
is a
so.
movie.
You were saying Brad Pitt.
I was thinking Brad Pitt should option it, and perhaps, well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I think the actor in you, the actress in you, is certainly formed, perhaps, by some of your real life.
Perhaps, yes.
Perhaps.
Yes.
We'll come back.